All right, I'd like to call this meeting of the West Allis Milwaukee School Board to order. Ms. Lee, would you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. First, we have Mayor Devine here to help assist with that. Just you guys go up alphabetically.
Sure.
Weak sauce.
Alphabetical. It's probably easy for Mayor Devine.
You should be able to throw it.
Or you. Try to do this with all my reading.
All right, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Brendan Burns,
I, Brendan Burns,
having been elected to the office of the West Allis West Milwaukee School Board,
having been elected to the office of West Allis West Milwaukee School Board,
but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof,
but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof,
swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office
and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office
to the best of my ability. Congratulations. Okay. Good, ready? All right. I, Jane Carr,
I, Jane Carr,
having been elected to the office of West Allis West Milwaukee School Board,
having been elected to the office of West Allis West Milwaukee School Board,
but have not yet entered upon the duties.
but have not yet entered upon the duties.
I forgot the thereof, so we'll just do a thereof. All right. Swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
Swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office
and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You never think you'd be third alphabetically with a last name that ends in B, would you? Yeah.
Second to last.
I, Amy Deal,
I, Amy Gill,
having been elected to the office of West Allis West Milwaukee School Board,
having been elected to the office of West Allis West Milwaukee School Board,
but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof,
but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof,
swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office
and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office
to the best of my
to
ability.
the best of my ability.
Congratulations. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Mayor Devine, for being here for the swearing in, and congratulations to our newly elected board members. Looking forward to working with you again in your next term. And with that, Suzette, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Mr. Becker.
Here.
Mr. Keller.
Here.
Mrs. Carr. Here. Mr. Sickich.
Present.
Mr. Burns.
Present.
Mrs. Kaiser. Here. Ms. Deal. Here. Mrs. Lee. Here. President Lee.
Here, proper notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the open meeting laws of the state of Wisconsin. Do you have any modifications to the agenda this evening?
There are no modifications.
All right, we'll move right into the superintendent's report.
Good evening, and first of all, I want to say again, congratulations to our 3 board members who are re-elected. Outstanding job. We know it was a tough race, so I'm glad you guys were able to pull it out. Again, so let's start off with our report tonight. We have, just want to talk about specifically first 2 lawsuits filed against partial vetoes against the governor. So Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce have filed a lawsuit seeking to overturn Governor Tony Evers' use of partial veto to raise school revenue limits by $325 per pupil each year until 24-25. There's an additional lawsuit filed by the Republican-led legislature against both DPI and Governor Evers for his partial veto of the 2023 Wisconsin Act 100. Act 10, the law that establishes the funding structure for new early literacy initiatives introduced by the 2023 Wisconsin Act 100, I'm sorry, it is right, Act 100. The lawsuits are specifically targeting the partial veto power that was displayed by Governor Evers during both the last biennium session. Action needed. DPI proposed changes to waivers from school start date appears to be stalled. So there's a actual legislation out there that was looking to adjust the academic school year for next year or future years, and that appears to be stalled, specifically targeting before Labor Day. And we all know that sometimes that could get into the tourism industry. So all of those things are currently being discussed, but there is definitely a stall with that particular legislation. We do have our FACES video tonight. I want to introduce you to Jordan. Jordan is a 4th, 5th grade teacher at Franklin Elementary School. So we're gonna roll the video.
My name is Jordan Pollard, and I am a 4th and 5th grade teacher at Franklin Elementary. Okay, so I grew up in West Dallas. I'm a product of WAWM. I went to Irving Elementary School and then West Milwaukee Intermediate School, and I graduated from West Dallas Central High School.
When I think of Jordan, I think of his classroom instruction is second to none. It's top notch. I mean, I was a middle school teacher for a while, and when I walk into Jordan's 4th and 5th grade classroom, it's the expectations are so high, and you really feel that you are in a middle school classroom.
He really dives into the kids' personal interests. He shows an interest in what they're interested in, not just in school, but also outside of school. He gets kids involved in music, cadets. He's the sort of teacher where if a kid mentions that they have a soccer game on Saturday, he goes to that soccer game.
Outside of the work that I do in room 204, I am also the safety cadet advisor at Franklin. I run the talent show here. I'm currently serving as the PTA president for a 2nd term. And then biggest of all, I serve as one of the high school directors for the musicals in the district.
Yeah, I'm not sure how he does it. He must have 48 hours in each day.
Franklin is a really special place to work because of the work we do with project-based learning. There are a lot of great projects that we've done, but I think my favorite is probably the first year that we did the cardboard boats. We had absolutely no idea if they were going to be successful or not, but the first year that we did it, every single boat floated with all 3 students inside.
Well, we're currently working on remaking stories into plays for our PBL unit, and it is honestly really fun because I get to work with my friends to make scripts, different set designs, costume designs, and it's really fun to do. We turn lessons into fun things. He has fun humor, and it's very fun being in his class.
He makes it fun by for example, with the reading thing, math, and our project-based learning. If he can't say a name, if it's a weird name, he'll say it funny or something, and the whole class kind of laughs and stuff.
He has such a passion for what he does that he leaves no stone unturned. His classroom it's really something to behold if you walk in. They're doing high-level stuff at all times.
He is someone that you can bounce ideas off of in a professional manner, but he's also someone where you can go and just joke around with, vent, blow off some steam, because he's been around for a long time and he knows the ins and outs, and you can have a good time with him, but also get a lot of really solid professional work done.
If I had to describe Mr. Pollard in one word, I would say driven. And the reason is just as a teacher, a professional educator, a friend, a colleague, a movie director, an actor, he does everything just to the highest level possible. And you can't do that unless you are incredibly driven to achieve, your goals.
Enthusiastic because he's fun, and he makes you be able to enjoy your stuff, and yeah.
I just hope that we continue to create a strong community here in WAWM where students are thriving and that we're thriving as a community, and that our theater program keeps growing and our kids are successful and happy.
want to say thank you to Jordan for the work that he's doing over at Franklin. Mr. Becker and I actually visited his classroom, I believe it was on last week. So it's just good to see him in action and him interacting with his students consistently. And when I talk about the theater program, Jordan's name definitely comes to mind. The work that he does with our students throughout our productions. We'll talk about those in a little bit that are on the upcoming one, the one that's going on right now. Sorry. Docky would like to recognize Chef Amy. Amy Sunquist is the newest culinary arts teacher in our school district, and she started with us in January. Amy comes to us right out of the restaurant business. In her short time with us, she has made a huge impact on our district's new culinary arts program located at Docky's New Kitchen. The specific event that we would like to recognize Amy for is fundraising partnership dinner that her culinary arts students prepared and served on the evenings of March 20th and 21st. The partner is Savage Support, a local breast cancer awareness and support organization. The students prepared for the event for 2 months, deciding on the 5-course menu, practicing the dishes multiple times, creating the promotional materials, and finally preparing, plating, and serving the meal in Docky's new cafeteria, which they also presented like a real restaurant. This real-world, authentic learning experience was a huge success, and the students left feeling a sense of pride and accomplishment. Way to go, Chef Amy. Pershing Elementary School, we want to send a special shout out to Leslie Connors for covering as the principal for Pershing Elementary for about 2 months. Principal Johnson, principal at Pershing, welcomed a new bundle of joy. And while she was out on maternity leave, Leslie came in and just took the reins and ran with it, and just outstanding. When I tell you, you couldn't tell she was an intern. She was in the work. She knew exactly the needs of the students, and she was there to support the teachers and parents that needed it. So I want to send another special shout out again to Leslie Connors for filling in as the interim principal of Pershing Elementary School. Our music department. Special thank you to our district music teachers for 3 outstanding district festivals last month that helped celebrate music in our schools month while showcasing the incredible work of our students. The Orchestra Festival on March 6th featured 400 students and was led by Kathy Cobb, Mary Pat Michaels, Erin Ovanen, and Kelly Schultz. The Band Festival on March 7th featured 500 band students and was led by Luke Daniels, Caden Easton, Heather Gundre, Sarah Goldner, Krista Witkowski. The Choir Festival on March 20th featured over 700 singers and was led by Luke Daniels, Andy Franklin, Scott Greger, Summer Klepek, Shannon McClemens, Darlene Moore, Katie Radisky, Shannon Shimoyama. I've been practicing that one all day. Sorry about that if I messed it up. Christine Trampish and Robin Ucky. Our Prelude Strings District Concert will be on May 22nd at West Allis Central High School in the auditorium. So I also want to send a special shout out to our music department. If my math serves me right, that's 1,600 students that participated in these 3 events. And when I tell you the gymnasium, the field house was full, not only of participants, but also parents. And so special shout out to the parents as well. And we want to definitely keep that fire going and energy going from these performances. We want to ask everyone to please come out and to the Prelude Strings District Concert on May 22nd as well. Other updates. Held several one-on-one meetings with teachers, parents, and constituents. Our monthly city schools meeting. West Allis Wauwatosa Chamber of Networking event, monthly principal and leadership meetings. Met with Superintendent Student Advisory Council. We nicknamed them The Voice. We'll be hearing from them a little later on. Meetings with constituents as well, just continuing. I'm offering coffee to anyone who wants to meet me. I will definitely engage in a conversation. And I'll even pay out my own pocket. So how about that? I participated in boardwalks at Franklin, as well as today we're at Wilson Elementary School. Monthly one-on-one meetings with board members, and participated in the West Allis Rotary Club weekly meetings. I want to urge all of our community to come out and witness Anastasia. I will be going on this coming weekend, so I want everyone to please come meet me on this coming Friday at 7 p.m. You can choose it any day that you would like to attend. We want to definitely come out and support our students as they put on their production. Again, this coming week, the 25th, 26th, and then on the 28th, the 25th and 26th, it will be at 7 p.m. And on the 28th, it will be at 2 p.m. All shows will be at West Allis Central High School. Lastly, I want to also thank those who participated in our spring engagement sessions. I believe it was an opportunity for true engagement with the community concerning the pending referendum for November of 2024. Our next opportunity will be May 1st, 2024 at West Allis Central High School in the auditorium. So again, that event will take place on May 1st from 6 to 7 p.m. Please come out and be a part of the conversation. That concludes my report for tonight. I am looking forward to the community hearing from our students a little later on as we talk about some of the work that we've been doing for the last couple of months and trying to increase the voice of students within our district. So at this time, I'll turn it back over to you.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Robinson. At this time, we'll move on to item 8, our public comments for this evening. For those who are in attendance in person, there is a tablet in the back of the room to be able to sign up for public comments. If you are watching via Zoom and like to provide a public comments, should be a link in the chat to be able to sign up to do so. For those providing public comments, you have 3 minutes to do so. You must start by stating your name and your address. There will be not back and forth conversation between the person speaking and the board, but if there is a simple question that can be answered or a comment that can be responded to, we will do that at that time after the comments have been completed, and any official response will come by the next regular Board of Education meeting. Right now, we have one person signed up, Mia Koch.
I'm Denise Odia, 3210 South High Point Drive.
I'm Mia Koch, 3210 South High Point Drive. Am I starting?
Go ahead.
My name is Mia Koch. This school year, I had the privilege to get hosted by the ODS, who supported me and helped me achieve my goals. When I first arrived from Germany, I wanted to experience 3 unique and specific American events that we don't have in Germany. My goals were to be a cheerleader, ride in a yellow school bus, and to walk in the cap and gown at graduation with all my new friends, which for me is the most special and iconic American high school tradition. And I had the opportunity to be a dedicated member of the Nathan Hale cheerleading team. And I rode the school bus. So now I'm requesting your help to complete my experience and goals and allow me to participate in the graduation ceremony, which will not only make my wish come true, but also the wish of many other exchange students that went on an adventure into a complete different continent and essentially started from zero, or through those students who will begin their journey next school year.
Hello, my name is Denise Odia and I'm Mia's host. Mia's experience at Nathan Hale High School has been exceptional, and I'm really grateful for it. The West Allis community, including local residents, families, students, teachers, and coaches, has been wonderfully supportive. While I understand that exchange students typically do not meet the graduation requirements, I believe that allowing them to walk at graduation alongside their classmates is a meaningful way to conclude their transformative experience in American high school. It is a symbolic celebration of their time here and the bonds they've formed. It's worth noting that in previous years, West Allis Central has included exchange students in their graduation ceremonies. And this practice is common across other school districts from Cedarburg to Kenosha. In Superintendent Dr. Robinson's response to our request, he expressed openness to considering recognition for the foreign exchange students during graduation. We respectfully request that Mia be permitted to sit with her graduating classmates and join on the stage to mark the culmination of her successful year at Nathan Hale High School. Mia demonstrated academic excellence and an impressive commitment to her extracurricular activities. While we understand that Mia is not graduating in a traditional sense, we believe graduation is a celebration of achievement. and Mia's courageous decision to move to the United States, a country she has never visited before, and live with our family for 10 months, despite never having met us, deserves recognition. This act of bravery and cultural exchange should be celebrated. Understanding the diversity of our global community is an integral aspect of education. The West Allis, West Milwaukee community, comprising of students, parents, families, and teachers and coaches, demonstrated this by warmly welcoming Mia. I extend my gratitude for you for considering this heartfelt request.
Thank you for listening to our request.
Will you accept a copy of what we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, that is the only public comment I had signed up for this evening, so we will close public comments at this time and move on to item 9, our board reports for this evening, starting with 9.1, a review of the board calendar. So today is April 22nd. We have a regular Board of Education meeting, and we have 2 college and career readiness workshops, one a student voice and student representatives on our school board, and another on special education programs. Then on Monday, May 13th at 6 p.m., we have a regular Board of Education meeting. And then we have 2 additional college and career readiness workshops, one on the technology plan and one on leadership and learning. And then Monday, May 20th at 6 p.m. with regular Board of Education meeting, then a financial stability efficiency workshop, which is referendum workshop number 4. And immediately following, we'll have a closed session. Moving on to 9.2, our board committee reports for this evening, starting with 9.2.1, financial stability and efficiency. Ms. Kaiser.
All right, thank you. We last met on April 15th. We had a technology committee update. This is a every 3-year update. We are going to be switching over all of staff. Either we'll be making a purchase for all of staff, I'll put it that way. I believe it is between Max and PCs, and there's been a lot of discussion within the committees, in both my committee and learning and leadership. So I believe it's coming to a workshop because there's a lot to talk about in that situation. There will be an action item though at the end of May. Our food service request for bids. We had 3 qualifiers. There's a big committee that was put together. There was a final decision made that once we have an action item on it, DPI will have to approve it also, or if I had that backwards, I apologize. There is an action force coming on that. I talked about IncentFit, which is a health and wellness vendor. When employees log in that they have done certain activities, there's a reimbursement for it. And over 800 employees qualified, and we are seeing tons and tons and tons of people logging in, which is great. Referendum 2024, and this goes out to everyone. The survey is due today. So if you're listening, we really want you to complete that survey. We currently have about 1,200. We would really like 3,000. That's a better indicator for us. And we have spring engagement sessions coming up, such as we discussed just a few minutes ago on May 1st, and they are really, really well done. I encourage everyone to come out and check them out.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kaiser. Do I have any questions from Ms. Kaiser regarding her report? Or any items for her committee to consider at future agendas? Seeing none, thank you very much, Ms. Kaiser. We'll move on to 9.2.2, Recreation and Community Service. Mr. Becker.
Thanks very much. The Recreation Committee met last Monday on the 15th. We spent some time trying to make sure we were on the right track with our strategic plan committees, the small groups that are meeting. I'm meeting with my group tomorrow with the engagement group. So we've got a good agenda there. We have a couple simple goals for the group. We just want to make sure we're tracking, and we're actually coordinating with Shelley Strasser's team. That they've got people who are going to be involved in each of the groups too, just to keep it on track. Again, we've got that aggressive timeline, trying to get drafts written by the end of the school year so we can submit something to the board this summer and be ready to go in the fall. It will be a challenge, but I think it really is important to get it done, push it forward so it doesn't sit in the back burner for forever. We also heard some updates on some of the construction. The rec center updates are progressing. We've got bathrooms under construction. in the new area. We've got common council approval coming for Lane this week. Some of this you guys probably read in your updates this week, but just so everybody else is hearing it. We also heard some updates on the fields being built over at Irving. We've got a water project that's coming underway. There will be bathrooms and concessions there, so that's a really nice addition. I think we got fields that don't always have those, so I think it's a good step. Also, a lot of focus on making sure that we're engaging with the community and addressing their concerns and letting them know that we are listening and trying to be the best neighbor that we can. That is about all I have, I believe. Yes, that was it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Becker. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Becker regarding his report? Or additional items for him to consider at a future meeting? Seeing none, thank you very much, Mr. Becker.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to 9.3, board member reports of community events. Anyone attended events they'd like to report out on? Ms. Kaiser.
I was able to make it out to my first engagement session, which was very nice to see. For once, I didn't have a baseball practice, but it was really well done. It's really well put together for people to really understand what we're asking for and our whys. And also, the feedback is so important. So I just encourage people to come out to either May 1st or May 7th.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kaiser. Anyone else would like to report on events they attended? Ms. Carr.
I was able to go and see Anastasia on Saturday. And of course, it was lovely and wonderful. And I can talk about the singing and there's always something that stands out. But the thing that really stood out to me this time was the lead who played Anastasia, Ellie. She was actually the lead in SpongeBob. She played SpongeBob as well as Anastasia. Does that tell you anything about what a wonderful actress she is? To me, to see those completely different roles and to see her thrive in both was just a moment of pride for me. So I encourage everyone to go out and see it.
Thank you very much, Ms. Carr. Anyone else like to report any events they attended? Mr. Becker?
As Dr. Robinson mentioned, we've got a couple of school visits, so that was really nice. It was really great seeing some familiar faces at Franklin. And today we were at Wilson, and that was my kids' school, so that was really great. A lot of really good memories, and every time I go through our schools, there's always places where I say like that's the kind of teacher that I wanted to be. That I wish I could have been that kind of just inspiring, just a really great vibe in a space. So that's always enjoyable. Over the weekend, we went out to Madison to see some of our 7th and 8th graders participate in the state National History Day competition. So we saw some of those kids just the other day. They came and spoke to the group. So I didn't see all of them on Saturday, but I'd seen some of them at EWM a few weeks ago. This is kids across the state. We saw about a dozen different documentaries. So that's the same kind of approach with a project-based learning that I think is really valuable if it's being done well. It was really nice to see kids doing good high-level work.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Becker. Ms. Steele?
I just wanted to thank the FLW staff. We were able to go, I went to some of these other events, but the preview night a week ago, very well attended. I know it helped alleviate my anxiety a little bit as a mom of an incoming 6th grader. So thank you to Mr. Fish and all his staff for welcoming all the families and providing the opportunity for the kids to take a tour of the building. So.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Steele. Anyone else want to report on events that they attended? All right, I will bring up the rear again. So I was able to attend the information session that was held. So I agree. It was a good conversation, good information, and we're looking to continue that moving forward. So if you're unable to attend the one that we had on the 16th, we do have 2 more opportunities to be able to come and listen and kind of hear. And if you haven't filled out the survey that has been sent out and it is due today, please do so because that survey is going to be critical in the process that way as we move forward with the referendum question, what it will be, how much it will be for. And so I think that we want to hear from you. So please take this opportunity to talk to us. I also was able to watch Anastasia on Saturday. I saw Miss Carr there. She sat up closer than I did, but that's okay. But the thing, as someone who's been part of productions in my past lives, the one thing that I always look for is the leads are always obviously they're phenomenal, amazing. But the ensemble cast is so important too, because it fills out the rest of what is happening in the show. And so I always try to look at what the background actors are doing, and are they staying in character? Are they goofing around? Which sometimes happens in productions at high school. But everyone was on point. Everyone was paying attention to what was going on in the scene. They were all dancing and singing and like doing a lot of stuff that is really impressive for a high school production in general, I think, to be able to do. And one community member mentioned, they should be nominated for some sort of award because the production is so good. So I hope that I'm not familiar with awards or things that get accolades you could get for high school productions, but if such a thing exists, I hope that we are able to put this show up for those things. I think it's definitely worthwhile. So there's 3 more opportunities to see this show. I think it's well worth your time to do so. And just kudos to all involved. Parents included, because I know it's a lot of rehearsal time to be able to go through and do these shows, but it was a joy to watch. Okay, and that's all I'm going to talk about right now. And then 9.4, I don't have any additional items that I want to bring up at this point. So move on to item 10, our consent agenda this evening, starting with 10.1, approval of minutes from our April 8th regular Board of Education meeting and our April 15th board workshop. 10.2, our employment summary. 10.3, our supplementary contracts, and 10.4, our financial summary. If no one needs anything separated out, I would look for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any last minute discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passes. And move on to our lone action item this evening. 11.1, seek position on CISA number 1, Board of Control 3-year term.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, so this is something we talk about annually. So our CISA rep is Miss Deal. And last year we had said, do we want to seek a seat on the Board of Control or not? Last year we did not. Ms. Deal was not interested in doing that, so we didn't move forward with that. So the question I would have is, Ms. Deal, number 1, do you want to remain as CISA rep? And if you do want to remain as CISA rep, would you want to seek a position on the Board of Control this year?
I don't mind, I would be CISA rep again, but no, I do not want to be on the Board of Control. I just want to go to my May meeting. I just can't commit to it unless somebody else is very interested in doing it.
Is anyone else on the board interested in being the CISA rep? Silence is deafening. Okay, so okay, with that, if we're okay with Ms. Steele maintaining this is our CISA rep for our board, but she is not interested in doing the Board of Control, then we don't need to worry about taking action on this item. So we'll just. Okay, so that's the only action item we have this evening. So we do have a workshop, but we do need to take a quick recess to be all set up for the workshop. So we'll take a quick recess at this time. Out here, student voice and student representatives on our school board. Dr. Robson,
We do. So we're gonna, before we get into the conversation around the student voice on the actual school board as in some shape, form, or fashion, I wanted to formally introduce the community to the voice. I've been working with a set of students since September in trying to create opportunities for them to have a place at the table. And if you would refer back to my interview in the district, every conversation that's come about it, I've been very, very much intentional in trying to create that space for student voice. I wanted to walk us through tonight before we get into a couple of opportunities that already exist. One is the Interact Club. So Hale and Central both have Interact clubs that are sponsored by Rotary. Some of the activities that Interact Club participates in are stuffing Easter eggs with the Recreation Department, helping prepare and serve empty bowl fundraising through West Allis Rotary Club, annual food and toy drive for the holidays, bi-weekly participation with the meal program at Apostle Presbyterian Church, Earth Day trash pickup, Veterans Day pancake breakfast, participation in eighth grade orientation, freshman orientation, and open house nights, and a lot of other activities. Every Thursday when I attend Rotary, there are student representatives at the Rotary meeting who talk about the philanthropic work that they are doing on their school campuses. And so it's with pride that every Thursday I get to hear about the work. And these kids come with confidence, full confidence, and the support of the adults and cheering them on. So you'll see a couple of more pictures from this is the Hale Rotary Club, Candy Cane Lane, Craft Fair, which is a huge event in the fall. There's a comment from Zoya Montas. She says, Rotary is not just about building a stronger community, but also discovering a purpose in life. By seeing the many faces of our community, I have learned the importance of connections and also the value of giving back. You can make a big difference in the lives of others. And so this is just a quick example of some of the activities that our students are already doing. That includes also hat and glove drive, Target holiday shopping, DSAW training, veteran card making. This is just one example. There are a number of groups that participate on our schools every single day, including National Honor Society. The possibilities and opportunities that students have in our district are endless, and we definitely want to make sure that their voices are heard. What I've been doing again since this group formed was trying to create that space for them. That space has not always been comfortable because when you talk about students, they have a lot to talk about. So my task has been to try to structure that conversation. That we don't want to just talk about ideas, but we have to start thinking about how can we make this come to fruition? What are the barriers for success? But part of that is creating that space where they understand the importance of their voice. So there's some research. Koenig and DeFore suggested when assessing school improvement, student voices can be a powerful tool. According to Gonzalez and et al., from 2016, researchers listed 3 arguments that support student voice in education reforms. An ethical responsibility to recognize the voices and opinions of youth. The second one is high school students are mature and ready to engage in school evaluation and reform efforts. And the third, conversations involving change and improvements procedures should be inclusive of students since they are the principal players in the educational processes that can often create unbalanced settings and outcomes. This has been important for me to keep in mind as we have engaged the last couple of months. So who are the voice? The voice there are 3 student representatives from Central, DLVA, Docky, and Nathan Hale. Only some of them were able to come tonight. I really appreciate these students being here tonight and representing the rest of the group. The meetings are coordinated and organized by our manager of student connections, Mr. Melvin Johnson. Activities building camaraderie amongst the schools. So we felt it's important to bring out things that each school are doing, each students are doing on their school campus, and how can it help the other campus? How can what we're doing at Hale help Central? How can what we're doing at Central help Hale? There have been a lot of conversations that have started in a room. They continue text messaging, through emails, where they've been helping each other problem solve, discussing specific topics and efforts that have made the school community to address, and also created a pathway for the future inclusion of student advisory members on this particular board. Okay, so what I wanted to do is kind of walk through today, and I have Journey Love, who's here, who's going to help me walk through group 1. So group 1's idea was reform versus punishment. They often feel that there's an effort to definitely focus on what the punishments are, but not necessarily on creating a space where students can actively learn from their mistakes, where the mistake is not just is something that's very punitive in nature, but how can they learn from it? And they felt that building stronger interpersonal relationships between staff and students was important. Next slide. And Journey's gonna just pop in when she feels like I'm talking too much, all right? Because I do talk too much. Why is this topic so important? It affects every student and teachers. This is what the students said. The students said that teachers and students connection mitigates stress and makes school more enjoyable. The student said it provides the opportunity to challenge any negative perceptions of the district. And it incentivizes improvement instead of stigmatizing for behavior. These are students' voices right now. This is not Terrence Robinson talking. Effective communication between teacher and students will build trust. And at the same time, it's a family-centered approach. It provides the opportunity to address social, emotional gaps in the home life that also benefit the parents. So we asked an overarching question. So we wanted to try to figure out what are the overarching questions they would like the voice to answer regarding this broad project. So some of the questions they came up as this particular group said, will an emotional approach actually improve outcomes? How long will it take to see the benefits from stronger communication between teachers and students? How do you get people to care and be open to change? How relevant is the issue? How can we build broad support around the topic? And what will be the messaging strategy? These are things that they thought about were overarching questions.
What overarching question would you like the voice to answer regarding this broad topic? Will an emotional approach actually improve outcomes? How long will it take to see the benefits from stronger communication between teachers and students? How do you get people to care and be open to change? How relevant, is this the same slide?
Yes, same slide, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Jump to the next slide.
Next slide, I'm sorry.
Sorry. So what are the expected outcomes for this broad project? We would like to see an increase in student voice towards developing a stronger relationship with students and administration, comfortable school environments which will determine if the student wants to come or attend class, improvement in grades and attendance and also graduation rates, and a significant reduction in student v. student altercations as well as student v. teacher altercations. And some of the barriers with this project that we have, what we think will be personal bias, past interactions and preconceived notions, apathy or people not caring enough to want to make a change, maintaining confidentiality while also understanding the line between mandated reporting and student trust, because as teachers, there is stuff that you guys have to report at some point. The time to build and develop these relationships, peer pressure in social acceptance groups, and also cultural norms and personality compatibility. It's hard to get along with somebody who has some personality.
Thank you, Journey. I apologize. Again, I talk too much, so I may have taken a couple of your slides. I appreciate you cutting me off like that. I needed that. Again, this is one group's ideas and focusing again, looking back at their topic. 1 second. It's reform versus punishment. That was the general topic, building stronger interpersonal relationships between staff and students. They want to understand how do we create a stronger bond, more working relationship, because in the end, it's just going to improve outcomes of students. That's the basis. What I want to do now is I'm going to actually shut up for real this time, and I'm going to turn it over to group 2. They're here and they're going to talk through actually their presentation. So group 2, you're up.
All right. So yeah, our main ideas were really centered around a district culture of acceptance and support. And so what this meant to us was trying to foster a welcoming and safe environment where students are free to express themselves while not shying away from any educational opportunities that already exist to them. And so this can, All right, and so yeah, why this is important to us, we had our own reasons for bringing this up and why we thought it was important. For myself, I witnessed unfair and unequal treatment at my school, Nathan Hale. I witnessed mainly altercations limit people's, sorry. I witnessed altercations limit students' potential to learn, and even in some cases myself, and so that's why it was important to me, is through my firsthand experience.
It's important to me because in my school, there's not a lot of people communicating to like teachers or with each other in general and encouraging participation. Because like I said, no one really talks or wants to participate in any class questions or like if someone needs to read something, no one participates. So my teacher has to call on me to participate.
Yes, me and Sienna are currently at the same school, so we both have basically the same reason.
What school?
Deeper Learning Virtual Academy. That's the virtual school. So basically, if everyone not playing an active role in class and in conversations, as in like club conversations.
Yeah, and then at Hale, I found it important to foster a welcome environment for students to feel like they want to come to school and learn. And then also working to limit like stigmas that surround this issue. So outside stigmas, but also stigmas within the school community that people feel about their school and their district. So some overarching questions we had about this was, how do we work to build a supportive environment for our schools to ensure that not just as a whole, but also at a building specific level, students feel welcome at school and don't feel limited by outside stigmas that people have or perceptions of the district. And then how do we work towards creating participation in classrooms and classroom engagement and invoking students' creativity, positivity. And then that's the same thing, kind of working towards limiting those stigmas that people feel negatively about their school. So some ideas we had about this, trying to answer those, encouraging students that, so obviously social media plays a big role in everything we do now, interconnectivity and stuff. So working on that piece to try and put out more positive influence about, because outside people think of our district as negative for the majority part. So how do we work towards encouraging students to post positively about their schools and highlighting good stuff? And how do we work towards embracing a positive environment in the classroom and working with teachers to embrace a positive, productive struggle? So it's all right to be wrong. And how do we work towards making sure the students know that they can feel encouraged to share out and have their teachers support them?
What are some obstacles regarding these ideas? Some obstacles we might face is overcoming pre-existing student mindsets and a dominant teacher-centered approach in classrooms. A couple of these pre-existing student mindsets are behavioral mindsets, negative social media messaging, altercations, attendance, and participation. The other obstacle to your teacher-centered approach leans on the main focus being on the teachers and the students listening. In our experience, many of us from our generation have found that hands-on learning tends to be more effective than passive listening. So adopting a student-centered approach could greatly benefit most students, allowing for more personalized and engaging learning experience. We've noticed that both students and teachers may have a fear of making mistakes or the fear of being wrong, showing in different ways. Students often worry about errors in their schoolwork, while teachers may worry about their lessons not being effectively conveyed to students, leading them to question if they've made mistakes in their teaching.
I'm sitting back listening to the young adults talk as if they are just seasoned veterans. What I wanted to do before we transition into the actual board, the future request, I neglected to allow you guys to introduce yourselves. Okay, I want you to tell us your first and last name and what school you attend. I think that's important. Go ahead, start.
I'm Brody Kaminsky. I attend Nathan Hale.
John Gruchich, I also attend Nathan Hale.
I'm Madison Cuna, I attend DVLA.
I'm Shanna Kueg and I also go to DLBA.
I'm going to pause and allow you guys to ask any questions you may have if you have any. So,
Ms. Kaiser?
First of all, I was one of the board members that have been pushing for student representation on the board, so I'm just beyond thrilled that we're here at this point today. I want to commend all of you for the things that you're observing. Is what I'm a teacher myself, and I'm observing this at our middle school levels, and I'm seeing this in high school levels. And I think it's fantastic that we are all seeing the same things, and the things that we're saying we want to fix just don't get moved on. I'm so glad to hear that you're saying the same things. And so I have a lot more hope now that we can move forward on fixing things in our schools, especially that culture of, well, you know, it's just a few, it's just a few people bring everything else down. No, we all need to bring it up. And so I really am thrilled that you're all here today, and to everyone who couldn't make it tonight. I'm thrilled that you are a part of this journey for all of us, because as a district, we have not had a student voice front and center, and it has to be, because at the end of the day, there's more of you than us. So
Any other questions?
Has a form. I'll help you out. I'll buy you some time. All right. So you guys mentioned apathy, and I think that's probably a really normal one. You know, high school doesn't feel like it was that long ago for me. It was 30 years ago, but I know. I know. But it doesn't feel that long ago. And I think we all remember, we can get into our memories and feel exactly what we felt at most times. And like, you don't really care to be involved. You don't really care to put yourself in the center. So how do you think we can kind of help people kind of snap out of that apathy and not worry about what people think about what they're doing and just get involved?
Yeah, so at Nathan Hale at our school, we assembled earlier in the year a Jocelyn's leadership team, in which throughout the year we tried to really change Nathan Hale's culture and climate, not focusing on the downsides and the negatives, but really focusing on all the amazing positives. We installed things like High Five Fridays, a pep assembly in the first week of school, and just last week, Friday, we actually had an incentive day where we had a shortened scheduled class period, and the last hour and a half of the day was spent with a teacher of your choice, either playing board games, watching movies, or another fun activity. So our goal throughout at Nathan Hale, at least, is really focusing on school is an amazing place to be. It's fun. And so not even shedding any light towards the negatives, but only focusing on how amazing it is. So hopefully students will catch on and try to spread that message with us.
Yeah, and we're kind of trying to embrace that no phone thing. So like, that's what John was saying, like we encourage this intern with the teachers, like we did the incentive day, we did cup assemblies where we're more engaged, making sure students don't leave school instead of cup assembly. But like some of those activities really help to get off that negative about no phones, which is really helping.
If you don't mind me adding on for what we're doing for deeper learning, we actually have a student leadership committee. And I actually have instituted based on what they're like High Five Friday. We started rerun Monday where we talk about our weekends, and then Video Game Friday. And we're also trying to plan more events for mostly high school, because that's where we really struggle in participation. I was both in middle school and high school for this school.
So, any other questions?
Are you formed? No.
I like the point of fear of being wrong. I mean, that's a true thing, and that doesn't go away, by the way. Even when you're a quote unquote expert in your field, you can still worry about being wrong. There's almost more pressure there because you don't want to be the person saying the wrong thing when you're supposed to be the expert. So I think that's what, especially when you're learning, you know, the courage it takes to raise your hand and say an answer to a question that you think is right, but then isn't right, or you're not sure if it's right, but taking that opportunity, because number one, it's how you learn. It's a great way to learn. But number two, it shows to your other peers that it's okay to do too. So the reaction that you get when you give a wrong answer from the teacher or your peers is equally as important, because it'll reinforce your fears or it'll alleviate them depending on what happens. So did you have any, is there any plans around how to help with that sort of thing?
Yeah, I'll kind of answer that piece. So we kind of did talk with Dr. Robinson about that piece of that fear of being wrong and encouraging that productive struggle part. So how do we encourage teachers, and this is kind of one of our solutions, is doing more hands-on participations and not just 55-minute classroom lectures, doing more like that project-based learning stuff to encourage students to not just sit there and fall asleep instead of listening to a lesson, but trying to get that hands-on learning to understand the material. So it's kind of our piece that we had kind of developed off that.
Great. Thank you. Ms. Kaiser.
Real quick, my interpretation of this was teachers being afraid of being wrong. And I'm a teacher, and I'm one of those people that definitely, like, if I mess up, I'm like, oh my gosh, I freak out, let's go to Google, or, so I think it does need to be embraced. I hope, I definitely can remember my own high school teachers being like, no, this is how it is. And I'm like, years later, I'm like, oh my God, they were wrong. So I think, you kind of think of your teacher as like, oh, they know everything about this subject, but really not the case, and that's okay. I think it's really good to be wrong, and admit to it, because it's, you know, as students, you have to be able to say, well, I messed up there, so let's go fix it. Adults should be able to do the same.
Sometimes those are the best learning experiences.
Yeah.
Actually start from those mistakes, you know, and to be able to embrace them, whether you're the teacher or the student, is actually some of the best circumstances. So I think it can be a beautiful experience for the teacher and or student. So I
And
think.
and Ms. Lee, that's the point that we were really driving home with this conversation. Because when we visit classrooms, we see the hesitation from teachers where they feel like they're embarrassed if a kid doesn't know the answer, and they feel like that's a reflection on them. And that's not the case. It's not the case. We're okay with kids not being able to. But what we want to know is, what are you going to do about it? What's your next move? Are you helping them
Right.
to discover that way of learning? That's what we're really looking for. So I think from looking from the student's lens and the teacher's lens, there's always that fear of that productive struggle. That's a huge fear.
Right.
It's huge.
I would say it's not even just about the mistake and the learning from it itself, but it's from the conversation that it generates. Just by speaking up and sharing that thought or that opinion, whether right or wrong, you're going to start hearing other perspectives and other ideas, and it's going to help you really formulate your own ideas even more. So yeah, it's important to take that leap and hear what others have to say about it as well, because it's really going to be helpful in that journey.
Mr. Burns?
Sure. So first, thank you for coming here and sharing this. I think my question is not quite on this piece, but I do appreciate the conversation on the fears of being wrong. But my question for you, all of you, is that with all that you've presented, these are some of the things that we've brought up, some of the things we've seen trying to get that moved, as Kaiser has said. But I guess the part that, and this is only a devil's advocate, but what role will you guys fill by having another group to do this? Because it sounds like there's a lot of implementation of things already, right? So would our focus be better putting more time into those other groups, or will this kind of group, the voice, fill a space that needs to be filled differently? Does that make sense?
So yeah, as Dr. Robinson already pointed out, the main idea behind this group was it offers students a hand at the table. We get an insight because we're at school every day. We see a side that a lot of people don't always see. And so we see firsthand encounters of issues and highlights that exist. And so we're able to highlight these key issues like the ones we've represented, hopefully bring them to change.
You know, follow up?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but
Sure, and that I feel like having that place, but we also have public comments. We have times where you guys can come share that stuff. So really the drive behind having that piece of the table, how are you going to maybe take that back to the school? How are you going to sell another group trying to help that space versus focusing on the groups that we have?
So yeah, as students, we serve as a really nice link between the ideas we brought up with Dr. Robinson and between our own schools. So with our own principal, Matt Lesser, like I said before, through Jocelyn's leadership, we started implementing the school incentives to try to build a better culture and climate. And we feel in a similar fashion, we can start incorporating some of the ideas we talked about together back to our own schools, serving as the source.
Yeah, kind of what John was saying. I think kind of one of the ideas we had was taking those ideas that we implemented at Hale, but also heard from other schools and trying to make them into a district-wide to encourage the ideas that we've started to implement and see how they work. To do that more of a district-wide niche.
Okay, thank you.
And then I think what happens is that the link between your group and us, as it informs the board of issues and things that are going on, and then we can support you because we can do things. I mean, this could develop into creating a policy about something. And we can't do those types of things unless we know what's going on. So who knows how this will evolve, but informing the board and helping us understand is important. And then helping us, we can help you through action.
You bring up a good point because I think the initial phases, when we were going through this, they kind of assumed that let's bring it up and it'll get passed. We can get changed. There's a process to that, right? And teaching them about that process and how to get this done. That this is kind of where we're landing tonight is to just kind of formally talk about the work that we've been doing, the discussions that have occurred up to this particular point, and now start to look at the next phase with the board and working with the position and trying to figure out how does that mesh. So this was kind of isolated at one time, and then we said, you know what? Why are we isolating this? This actually goes right along with the student representative on the board. So and we figured it was a good mesh with that, with both plans.
All right. Just gonna switch computers here.
So, that's fine.
All right, I'm very excited because we are now going to move into a discussion around kind of the evolution of the voice into student representation on the school board. So students having an official seat to be part of our school board. And just, I have a few slides to kind of go over the why and our timeline and how we got here. And then we'll open it up for discussion and questions. So again, our why is similar to why we have the voice, which is really to center and empower student voice in our decision making as a board and as a district. Students will represent and advocate for their communities. So the things that they're hearing within their individual communities, bringing that to that perspective to our board. Students will serve as a liaison, like we've been talking about, between students and the board, and especially relaying those important changes back to their peers in their communities. And then also gaining experience in public service. So it's a really amazing opportunity for students who are interested. Some of you may be those individuals who want to serve in different public service capacities, potentially in education or in different arenas. And this is a great opportunity to learn, like, how do boards operate? How does decision making work? How do we make these great ideas come to fruition within a large system such as ours? So our timeline, this idea was brought to the College and Career Readiness Committee back last June, if we can believe that. So last June. And then we talked about it first last July and reviewed some different area districts and how they have approached this. There's many districts across our state that have student representatives on their boards and in different fashions. So we'll kind of talk about that. Then the first semester, Melvin Johnson, Bico, who's unfortunately not able to be here tonight, but he did go out and talk with all the school principals and kind of got their feedback on what would be a helpful process if we were to bring this into fruition. What would they recommend? And then continue to review different area districts' approaches to how they have student representatives on the board. This was brought again to our committee in January and a workshop was requested by our board members. And so here we are having a board workshop tonight, and then hopefully we'll be able to bring forward for potential action in May. And just a quick review of the vision, we would have one student representative from each high school. And they would have a rotating schedule for attending board meetings. So there would be one student who would have a seat at the board table each board meeting. And the reasoning behind that is we know that many of our students have lots of commitments, either caretaking responsibilities, sports commitments, other extracurriculars, music, etc. So we want to make sure that this is an opportunity that is available to our students that are most interested. The term will run from September through May each year, and student representatives must be a member of the sophomore, junior, or senior class. We'll talk about the connectedness and why in a minute. And again, here are just some more of those proposed guidelines. So all the students will participate during the regular open meetings of the board. They'll have a seat at the table, provide an update, and answer questions in the same manner as other elected board members. They'll be encouraged to communicate with students in their corresponding school, right? Be that liaison so they know what's kind of happening with our board and what we're focusing on for the year.
Students will not vote on matters that come before the board or participate in closed sessions. And then the superintendent, Dr. Robinson, will also meet with the student representatives to give them kind of a onboarding, and so you have a good understanding of how meetings run and feel really prepared and competent going into those. And the nomination process. So we again have the voice, our principal advisory committee, which we've heard from tonight, and that's 3 students per high school, so 12 in total. Then from that group of 12 students, the high school administration would identify and nominate 1 student in the spring semester each year. So again, pulling from that group that already exists and having one of those students step forward to serve as the board representative from their school. And the qualities for nomination, this is something that our committee had discussed a lot over a couple different meetings. And we really wanted to ensure that students who are taking on this leadership role would have a demonstrated desire and actions to positively impact their school community, demonstrated leadership skills, and also represents the diversity of their school community. So you'll notice there aren't GPA requirements. There's not attendance requirements. Like there's ways that we could be gatekeepers to this, and there's ways that we can also keep this very accessible and inclusive of our community. So we tried to not limit the qualities for nomination. The board has also previewed this, but this is the proposed policy change to expand our current policy, which we have around student participation in board meetings, to having student representation at board meetings. This is reflective of area districts and has been approved and reviewed by our legal team. So this is something that we are also looking to include once we move towards action in May. And then similarly, Dr. Robinson and I did not plan this, but we found similar research points, which is that research shows that student voice is more than making students feel important and giving them a seat at the school board table. It is an approach to school improvement that makes the learning environment engaging, relevant, meaningful, and more productive. So this is not a symbolic seat at the table. We need you all and students to become better and continuously evolve as a district. So it really is like an active role and part of the greater team. So I'm gonna stop there, and I'm happy to go back to any slides we want to or have questions about, but open it up for questions and discussion.
Steele?
Just a quick question. So if we're pulling from the principal or the voice, right? I just want to make sure that if that's 12 kids and we're pulling from them, and then then next year did that additional, I just want to make sure that we're providing opportunity for like anyone who's really interested, I'm saying, like, does that make sense? Because if we're picking from 12, I just feel like could limit someone that maybe wanted to be on the advisory committee, but maybe wasn't chosen, so I mean, I understand why we want to pull from them, but I also don't want to limit, other people that might want that opportunity.
Yeah, so a little reasoning, and this is like part of the conversation and discussion we'll have tonight. A few things. When we reviewed different districts, I would say the majority that I reviewed, and I went back over the past couple of weeks to look again, are appointed by their high school administration. So that's one thing. There are some that do elections, but that's not as common that in what I was finding as being appointed. Also, when we talked with all of the high school principals, that was aligned to kind of what they were envisioning for this as well. So that was just feedback when we did talk with every leader of the route that they thought would be most appropriate. And correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Robinson, but each year the principal advisory committee will also potentially change, correct?
Okay.
So there is,
Okay,
each year there will be a different,
Okay.
could be a different group of students. And that's why we opened it. Originally, we said juniors and seniors, but this is why we said sophomore, junior, seniors, because that's who makes up the principal advisory committee. So it's a little more open in that sense too.
No, and now that you've said it would be different kids, I just want,
Absolutely.
be open to as many, the kids as possible that, or the principals feel, are exhibiting these leadership roles and having that opportunity.
Yep.
Okay.
Other questions?
I was just gonna say, this kind of aligns with the gifted and talented work we just approved the other week, because leadership is part of the gifted and talented group. So I feel that this is just another positive step for the board to recognize that leadership is a gift and a talent, because not everyone can do it. So I just think it's a continuation of the work we've been doing too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think my question / concern kind of goes along with Ms. Deal's is I'd rather see that we've got some election going on. I mean, we're talking about student voice or then we're saying, but only if it's approved by administration. I think that doesn't quite sync with me. I understand that, you want to make sure that you're getting in the right people. And so, we have to fill out documentation to run for office. I mean, this seems like something that the kids could do if they wanted to be considered for the nominations or whatever for a vote. But I'd like to see them actually choose who their representatives are, because then it's their voice, right? So that's kind of, I certainly appreciate and don't mind admin putting in their vote too, but I don't think that should be dictated that way, just as I'm looking at it. And then the other thing that I was kind of wondering about here, with the vision and having a rotating schedule for attending the board meetings. So these kids are going to be coming from 4 different schools, right? So is there any expectation that after each board meeting, they're collaborating and getting together? Because otherwise, then we're not necessarily getting the full piece every time. And while I appreciate that they have one person that's maybe there for the specific advocacy, if we could have the seats open for whoever the representatives are, so they can be there if they want. No, I think they can still be up there. We just have the seats available. It's just the expectation is that one for the rotating schedule, but the other ones can be there if they're available and aren't covered by those other pieces, because then they can still participate. Yep.
Brian?
I'm going to play devil's advocate to some of the comments here. I personally am probably not in favor of any type of election. And mostly just because, and no critique here, but high school is often about a popularity contest. And I worry about doing any kind of election because I think there is the possibility that you could get the wrong type of representative. I do like the idea of allowing all the representatives to be at every meeting, even if one is the main voice. I think it does allow for some continuity in terms of the information that is shared and so forth. So I think that's great. I'm going to go back to my first point a little bit because I want to dive into that a little bit deeper, though. I think the reality is, I would hope that in the situations where these students are being selected, it's because they've shown specific traits and abilities that kind of have them standing out a little bit. So I could see a scenario where maybe if each school has 3, maybe there's election from those 3 names or something like that I could see. I would just be a little worried about more of an open-ended election. Because again, I think it's kind of like working your way to a certain role, right? And they've exhibited the behaviors and the abilities to get to this level. And I think those are the individuals that should have that opportunity to serve in this type of role the following year.
Ms. Lee?
Well, I guess I'm kind of between the two of you then, so I'll be on the other shoulder of that. For maybe not the whole like appointing somebody, but maybe not an open election, because I get the popularity contest thing, and then you might get kids picked that maybe have no interest either. So I kind of like the idea of like how we do it, where we go and collect so many signatures. So then, you know, you're getting students that are wanting to do it. First of all, you know, will have more of the drive to be here for the purpose that we want them to be here for. And then, but then admin could also have an opinion on it too, or something like that, maybe collectively somehow or something. I don't know. We can work out the details later, but I kind of like more of an idea like that, where there's more control on that, I guess you could say. And now I totally lost the rest of it because I was all on that, but I mean, I do like, oh no, and then the whole at the meeting themselves, I guess my issue with the rotating is I was just worried about there being like a gap between the 4 schools as far as, you know, information and getting shared amongst all 4 schools, you know, like, okay, well, would they be? So, right, yeah, I mean, just to make sure that they are all collectively, you know, yeah, or would they all still, would other reps still be here, even though just one's at the table that night, or, you know, especially if they have something to share too, you know, or would they have a plan in mind of how they're sharing all their information, you know, just to make sure that everything's all coming all the time, you know, that constant running of information, I guess was just the other thing I was wondering about.
If I can speak to that really quick. So the vision again from the committee that we are bringing forward tonight was it would be, and this can change, but it would be on a rotating basis. One student would be the lead voice if we had others, and they would be responsible for giving an update at that meeting. I think the logistics around how we have them collaborate across high schools is something that we can figure out. And that is something that I foresee Bico taking some leadership over and being able to bring that group together on like a regular basis and sharing. I am just cognizant, like we meet a lot, so that is a huge commitment. I want to make sure that students that do have interests, and we could go down the line, and I'm sure many of you participate and do many other things, that they would be able to. So it could be optional. But that was some of like the reasoning, so we can figure out the logistics of the sharing between board meetings too.
Ms. Carr.
So there's 12 kids and there are 3 from each high school. All right. The principal chose you, correct, Jenny? Would you, okay? So if you have 3 kids from Hale that have been chosen, it just makes sense to me not to have an election per se to who will represent of the 3 of you, but to do as the board does. What if you did, like, we pick our president, our vice president amongst the 9 of us. So amongst the 12 of you, you'd say, out of the, you know, who would you like to represent Hale? I think I'm going to nominate John. And I think that he would need a second. That way they could get that experience of this is really how things are run, but not on the scale of, you know, getting signatures and campaigning and all that. But I do think that there would be a way for then out of the 3 Hale or the 3 Dad Key kids, I'm the one that wants to be nominated. So I'm going to go to my peers and I'm going to say, hey, I think I would be really good at this. I would like to represent us for the year. So I'm suggesting that as a compromise. But I want to just go back to the principal that picks the 3 kids. I feel that's really like what you were saying, Amy, about like what criteria was that based on and why those 3 kids? And it just seems really limited. I just want to, but anyway, okay.
Are students allowed to ask questions?
Absolutely.
Let me get mine in first.
Yeah.
How would you guys like to see your representative chosen?
It doesn't really matter.
Because I could see both sides of their point.
Yeah.
I think Ms. Carr had the best compromise of all those solutions. We're obviously picked by our principals. I think that's having that experience. I mean, I'm a Milwaukee County Youth Commissioner, so I have that public policy experience. So I kind of know what it feels like to have that representation. So I feel like if we had that similar voting experience, that'd be kind of nice within ourselves.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it would offer a really good compromise between, our own principals picking us, but then talking amongst ourselves and figure out who we want to represent everything.
I'm good with it if they are.
And also keeping in mind though, what works at Hale may not work at DLBA. So we have to also think about that because these two young ladies, they're kind of the ones who really kind of stepped up. So there wasn't a lot of participation in our offerings. Individuals wanted to participate from DLBA.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's not really that, but it works at one school, may not work at the other.
Got it. Good point.
With the 12 students, with our school in particular, there may not be 3 students that want to do this.
Yeah.
I personally, I would probably pick someone from our leadership committee because it's what it is. It's about leadership and sitting on events. But there isn't a lot of people that come to that. There's a very limited amount of students that do in fact come. It's usually people that operate our other clubs. Because we go based off our student leaders for each club. It's not a teacher-led club. It's a very student-led thing.
Thank you.
Mr. Burns.
So just as a clarifier, I wasn't advocating for school-wide open elections. It was some sort of.
Now backpedal.
Once you Election, but that's why I said we have to sign papers. I was looking at, there needs to be some sort of thing to express some interest.
Got it.
But I don't think that we should necessarily just open it up and be like, all right, kids, let's vote for who your reps are. I don't think that that would be. Class president. I don't think that would go well. Yeah. And then the other thing I think is what Dr. Robinson just brought up with why I would want the participation is that the things that are at different schools, there might be a similar issue at different schools, but the perspective may be different. And when we can all share our perspectives, we tend to have better ideas and better solutions. And so that's why I would like, I appreciate the one, but I would like the option for those students if they're available, or if there's, they get their minutes and this is what's on the docket, they can attend and they can still participate as part of the meeting because they might have a view.
I was just real quick. Okay. The reality is that option exists. All of our meetings are open and those are the meetings they would be coming to.
Right.
So whether they're the designated person or not, all of them are always welcome.
And I would say actually to the point of, in that instance, if there was something on the agenda and it wasn't that school's turn to be the voice, they would go talk to the person whose turn it was to be the voice, to be their advocate. Like, hey, this is our perspective, but DLVA came to me and said, hey, they have this concern they wanted to bring up at that point as well. Because I think it can get a little sticky having, if all 4 were there to try to get all 4 perspectives, I think that would be a difficult thing to do. I think limiting it to one person who's going to be talking, other students that are part of it want to come and be in the audience and observe. Absolutely, obviously welcome, open meeting, like we're not going to discourage that, but to the point of the fact that they are going to be busy and things like that. You don't want to be, oh man, I really want to go and do this, but I have these other, responsibilities I have to take care of. I can't do it. So being able to talk to the person who is up that month or whatever happens to be and say, hey, here's my perspective from my school about these things. Can you please make sure to relay that to the board? Like, that's how I would like to see something like this work.
Well, and that's kind of where I guess what I was just thinking of is just whatever their plan is, just that we're to come up, that there's constant communication so that that's covered is all.
Group chat. And the other thing that I was wondering is about alternatives, because alternates, because say it's somebody's turn to be up, if they're deathly ill and they can't be here, or they have a big XYZ thing that they need to be at for this meeting, but they want to come up. So are we going to have alternates that would be assigned from their school to be that participant? Because we're talking 3, but 1 is coming. So then should there be 2?
Alternate 2.
Yeah. Should there be 2 so that, hey, I can't come, you got to go. Can you go, to make sure? And then that would have to be worked out about the student reps to ensure that we had someone here.
Yeah, I think we could, with the alternates, I was more so thinking if we have the 4 students, we would map out the year. And then if there are any conflicts or changes needed, that is something that they would determine as a as a smaller cohort and group to switch weeks, unless we wanted to make the alternates the other students from the schools. That's a little different than how boards function, because you all don't have backups or alternates if you're not here, right? You typically like fill in and support each other and bring that voice forward. So we could go either way, but I think some of that is scheduling and mapping out the year.
I see student representatives a bit differently than board members, and the fact that they're representing their school. And so I think if it's their voice's turn to be the voice, that it should be their school, someone from their school who is that voice at that time. And the only thing is that the people who are sick, you know, when you're sick that night, you may not have been able to work out that switcheroo, you know what I mean? So that if you have people that are already knowing that this is something that might happen, now granted, it may work out that none of them can make it because they're all on the same team or whatever, you know, something happens that can't occur. But that's the thing that I'm thinking about, is that if we're making this about they're representing their school, that if it's their turn, it should be their school.
I think that complicates it too much.
How else should we do it?
I mean, most of the time, I mean, if you know, I mean, things can come up, but I think we can accommodate. I think we're already asking for students to come together. I mean, the way I vision it would be like, before a board meeting, if you're coming to that board meeting and you have to give a report, you reach out to the other 3 reps. Hey, anything I need to report, blah, blah, blah. I just think adding more students, putting another 4 people as an alternate and have a second, I just think that's just complicates it more. We have 4 reps. They can, I'm sure they can figure out amongst themselves, or so-and-so can't come. Hey, shoot out a text. I can't make it today, but I can swap with someone. To me, I just feel like you're just adding more layers that we don't need to, because we've got 4 reps.
And that could actually be managed by Mr. Johnson. That's an easy one. He already kind of manages their schedules right now when they're coordinating as far as the meetings with me. That's something that can easily be done. It's not hard.
You can work out those details.
Just right.
The last thing about having students up here, for me, is just simply perspective. Okay, I understand that all of our students can come and show up open meeting and they can do that. But I think that there's a difference in seeing your representatives behind the tables versus out in the stands, because we would be in very different positions if we were out there. I think if we're trying to get this buy-in from the students, having authority, having participation where it has weight is important. So that visibility behind the bench, behind the tables is why I'm advocating for it. But wherever we go with this, I'm just really glad that we are getting representation, but I would, if this could be possible, I would advocate for it.
Mr. Becker?
Along the same lines, I've been kind of curious about the buy-in before the initial suggestion of having the 12 or each school decide who the representative was going to be. I was just thinking about, like, do we need a student authorization of some sort, whether it's the whole school just approving and saying, yes, we like, you know, John or whomever as our representative. Do you feel that what we've discussed as some potential options, would there be buy-in from students, do you think?
Student council. That's the popularity contest, is student council.
Yeah, I mean, still, just in terms of like with this arrangement, is it going to be dismissed as like, well, that's just the principal's pick, as opposed to something that we agree and we support? That's a good pick. I think it's some kind of a combination, like the hybrid system of some sort. I just want to make sure it's a hybrid system that the students don't see through and say, nah, I don't buy it. That's what I'm wondering about. It's like, how do we avoid?
Is each principal coming up with their own criteria? Is that how it's working?
Pretty much. And as you guys were talking, I was thinking about sort of like an application and then maybe an interview at the campus level. If people are if students are interested and they fill out the application, that means they're really interested. If they're not interested, they're not going to fill out the application and we can move on, right? So, and then having them go through an interview, I mean, we can set up sort of some consistent practices. But again, it does kind of differ from school to school when you start getting to the specifics.
Yeah, and even if every school has their own system, so be it. Like I think that would even be that will probably buy some credibility, I would imagine, where you choose your own adventure, go to page 58. I don't know if you guys used to read those kinds of books in school, but.
The only thing I didn't get the chance to comment on, Mr. Keller said it earlier. He said you want to really avoid the popularity contest. And as I was listening to you, I'm not sure any of these guys would have won a popularity contest, but I can tell you the information they bring to the table is powerful. And so I think that they have a certain voice and certain confidence. And at the same time, this builds confidence. I'm listening to Sienna, and I'm like, is this Sienna talking? Because she doesn't usually say much, but she feels like she has a voice. I mean, this is very much I'm shocked. I was gonna mess with her privately, but I went ahead and did it publicly. Great job tonight. But yeah, we can work on those fine details.
Yeah.
Is there, so, and seeing the policy says they'll participate in regular open meetings. So I know in other districts, the student representatives leave at a certain point within the regular meeting. So is this plan is they would be here from start to finish, or they would be here from start until a certain time point, like before we're taking action on action items?
No, so they would be here for open, regular meetings, so they wouldn't take action on anything, but they could sit in and hear how you all take action on different points and stay for workshop as well, just like this. They're participating, listening, being part of the conversation.
Would they be allowed to speak during that time? Or is there time to speak when they give their report, and then if there's questions the board has? So what I'm saying is, like, are they going to be allowed to be part of a debate of an action item, or are they listening to the action item?
No, I think the role and being part of it is to be part of the discussion, so they could ask questions or give a student perspective towards something that you're going to take action on.
I think to answer your question, it may be a better idea to sort of give them a guided question at first until they get adjusted to the format. And, something like, from the student's perspective, what do you think about this particular topic? Or how does it affect you as a student? Like they're going to need that kind of, because these are some very interesting conversations that we get into, and there's some specifics that they might have the background knowledge about. And keeping in mind, they're also not necessarily participating in some of these committee meetings as well. So there's a lot, and board, you get stuff behind the scenes, notes and reports. So there's some information they're not going to have. So you're going to have to kind of guide them. Sure. But I think it's important that they at least have that opportunity to chime in a bit.
This guy's
Thinking on this, I think maybe something like saying you need to stay here through action items. Workshop could be optional. It's on YouTube the next day. And so unless it's a workshop item that you really want to be part of, sometimes we're here really late on semantics. Sure. So, and you're still students first and foremost. So I would like to put in there that workshops are optional. They are available on YouTube. You guys are all go-getters, so I'm sure it'll be easy enough for you to watch something later. But being cognizant that they are students. And some of our workshops go far too long because of semantics. So I would like to leave that as an optional. So you stay through action items, workshops are optional. Because it can be discussed by the student rep at the next meeting. Oh, during the workshop, which we couldn't stay for, but we watched later, a comment was made by blah, blah, blah. It can still get addressed. There's a million ways for you guys to reach out to us. So I don't think they're not getting paid. And they're students, and it's a fantastic opportunity. I don't want to limit because one kid, their rotation that month happens to be the long one. You know what I mean? So.
I think in terms of policy, we could keep it as students participate in open board meetings.
Sure.
And then as we go through, like if we did find longer meetings, sometimes we have multiple workshops tonight, right? Maybe they're just staying through a certain point and that's like a personal need, right? We might not need to do a blanket adjustment to the policy based on that, but just saying that they will participate in the open meetings. So closed meetings obviously are private and closed to the public.
Okay. I have two concerns. One, some of the things that we talk about are very complex and complicated. And trying to explain that on a fly to somebody when we're trying to debate and then take action on it could be very time consuming, depending on what we're talking about. There's a lot of homework that goes into what we do. We're talking about policies, especially new policies. And if a student's going to participate in that discussion on a meaningful level, they would have to have some of that information and know about it to be able to like understand it. To explain that on the fly, I have concerns about that. To either it's not comprehended well enough to be able to get a good understanding of what we're actually trying to do, or it just takes a really long time to work through the different steps that we have to go through. So that's one
Board
thing.
members who
What's that?
new board members get on the fly. It takes a full year or more, honestly, to understand.
Sometimes longer.
I understand what you're saying, Mr. Lee. It's in here that the superintendent is going to be the support. And we start this out, it's probably gonna be a couple of years program for us to really get into this. But I think this is a really meaningful step. It's something that as a district, we are missing. And so we will figure it out as we go along.
Right, so I just think it's important that that is thought about, because we have board notes, we have, you know, workshops, we have all those things go into what comes to a final action item, which still then we have discussions about and things we did talk about. And so I think it would be almost impossible in some of those situations for a student who knows nothing about the topic, then to come in and try to be part of that discussion. I think that would be difficult to do. So I think we should maybe think about topic specific things where it would be something we could do. And the other thing is, and we checked into the legality of it. So we don't, during our discussion, no one else normally, other than administration, is part of that discussion. And so if we're adding someone who would then be part of that discussion, is there any sort of rules, regulations, has that been looked into? Because it doesn't specifically say here, it says just part of the board meeting. And before when was discussed, it was, you know, they're listening to what's going on. And if there's input on a topic, that was going to come from like the portion that they speak on, you know what I mean? Versus as kind of a continual back and forth situation. So that's the other thing that I wanted to make sure of, that if the student representative was actually going to be like, I have a question about this action item that you're now debating among yourselves right now, that there's no legal reason that we wouldn't be able to allow that. Because I know like other boards, like when the student representative leaves before action items, as an example. I'm not advocating that's how we should do it. I want to make sure this is new, right? And that we're doing this in a situation where we don't get in trouble with the community. Hey, I want to be on the board. I want to talk, you know, when you guys are doing this too. Why don't we have a community member that's part of the board? So that's the thing that I think, that's the only other thing that I wanted to make sure that we consider and ensure that we're dotting our i's, crossing our t's on this.
We reviewed this with legal, but that specific topic, I'm not sure if we have a strong hold of. I don't think we had that particular conversation about. We can discuss it with them.
So the policy is about just having a representative on the board, and that of itself, I'm sure, is perfectly legally fine.
Yeah.
But the discussion during action items is the piece that I'm specifically want to ensure that we're okay.
Yeah, we can review that with legal to triple check that one.
You're just waiting, aren't you?
So some things that can I recap really quick? Some things I'm hearing from you all. One is looking into doing like an application and interview process I would actually recommend to get to principal advisory, and then the advisory selects, students select who would be the board. So a combination of Ms. Carr's idea, and I think you brought that up, Dr. Robinson. So that's something we can definitely work into this plan. Ensuring that we have regular information sharing between the reps. And to that point, I also think President Lee, that we can have like a preview of the session. I mean, we do this as directors and our teams all the time of like what's coming up with the board, right? That's something that I think Melvin Johnson can do with our students so that they feel they have a gist of what's going on. And I would also say I've sat on boards when I was your age. I didn't always know what was going on, and it was still helpful for me to like be in the space, hear, listen, and start to gain some new perspectives on topics that maybe I didn't know as much about. And all of us are also learning about different topics all the time. So that's just part of kind of the learning process like we talked about earlier. Alternates is something we will make sure that there's like a schedule for that. And yeah, we'll follow up with legal. So those are the things I kind of heard as my next steps between now and May 13th. So I'll bring those adjustments back next time.
Thank
you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Mr. Becker.
One more. As I'm reading through the policy, it says student representatives are encouraged to communicate with the students in their corresponding secondary school in the district. So it sounds like encouraged versus expected. Is that a deliberate wording? Because we keep on moving more and more towards systems and formal processes and strategic plans and all these things. So I wonder if is there something similar that should be considered?
That is per like what Neola has recommended for other area districts, but if we want to change the wording, we could run that by Neola.
Just curious.
Any other questions?
I just wanted to thank our students for coming this evening. You guys did an outstanding job. Cannot imagine being in high school and having a conversation like this with the school board. And to our parents, thank you as well.
Thank you very
much for being here and hanging in with us tonight. Thank you again for just having them prepared. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very
All right.
much.
Thank you very much, you guys. Have a good night.
Okay, well, I guess we're gonna take a short recess. Workshop. So we'll take a short recess.
All right. Thank you.
Brandon's got to put the.
And we're back. Yeah, but he needed them. So we're on for our second workshop this evening, special education program. Did you have a preamble on this one?
No, I'm going to turn it over to Ann and to Laura.
Good evening, everyone. It's good to see all of you. So tonight we're going to talk to you about like advancing our special education programming through our district. Some things that we've encountered over the years, some things we talked about at board workshop last spring this time, and kind of what our plan is moving forward. So I kind of want to ground you guys in this picture. This is a picture you saw at board workshop last spring when we came around for special education programming. So this was one of the pictures that we shared from Irving. And in that picture, there's this one. There's one where every single plate there is filled with a child. EC programming, 4K, just tons of kids. And it was beautiful and great, but there are a lot of kids at Irving receiving services. So that's kind of creating some interesting things over that building. So currently, as a district, we're 16% represented with students with special education needs. So the norm to be expected would be about between 10 and 15. So Irving is double right now at 32%. And that's largely from students who with very significant developmental delays for their disabilities. So that's the population there that's really kind of pushing that up because we just don't across our district have enough like programming for them in different spots. So we're trying to rectify that. Because there's lots of implications with that as a building. So kind of think of like an analogy of a rubber band. Like the rubber band's nice and stretchy in the beginning. You keep stretching it, stretching it, stretching it. It loses its like effectiveness and it could break. So in terms of our resource strain, so that's just a strain on our resources with having that many kids in one spot. So when you think of like coaching resources from the DLC, it's just stretched over more. There's a strain on administration. Like if you think about all the kids have at least one annual IEP. Some have review revises. So that really adds up to a lot of meeting time. So you're spending a lot of time sitting in meetings, which is very important and great, but it's the strain on the system. And then also kind of with that cluster at Irving, we're really kind of like breaking our neighborhood connections. So if I'm a student kind of living on the west end of our district, like, yes, Irving's not that far away, but if I could be closer to the kids in my neighborhood and just have those natural connections, like if you're out and about to playground, or just out and about community events. It's nice to be close to your neighborhood. So those are kind of the implications that we're seeing
And again, that kind of concept of the rubber band, we can't stretch it till it breaks. And because as a result of that, Irving has taken on what's called a joint federal notification. So this is from our forward test data. So right now at Irving, our students who receive special education services are identified in ELA because they're performing below the 10th percentage. So we're really seeing that impact on academic scores because of the strain on our resources. So we've got to figure this out. And we've got to figure it out long term. So this is where we're coming up with the idea of like advancing programming across district. So what we've done is we've identified what's called regional site schools. And we thought about this geographically, like how can we meet the needs across our geographic districts? And by doing that, you keep kids closer to their neighborhood school and you reduce travel time for some of our kiddos. So a travel time for 20 minutes could be significant for some of our kids. If we can cut it down to 10, that's fantastic for them. And then we thought about like the least intrusive pathway to kind of start moving our kids to these regional site schools. So there's a natural point at EC. So when kids finish their 3K year, that EC programming, they all go to 4K. Just like our 5th graders move on to 6th grade, 8th graders move on to 9th grade. So that's a natural point to get in there and start kind of diversifying this programming across district. So in the spring, we hold our EC transition meetings. We get together as an IEP team, talk about, okay, where are we going to go to 4K? What will the services look like? So this would be the point where that IEP team would start to recommend placement at a regional site school. Kind of a natural time to do that. And then here's how we did it. So if you take a look at the neighborhood school, we've got a regional site school in that geographic area. So if your neighborhood school is Man or Pershing, Man would be your regional site school. If your neighborhood is Jefferson, Wilson, or Franklin, your regional site school would be Wilson. If your neighborhood Irving or Mitchell, Irving would be your site school, and then Hoover Walker would be the site at Hoover. So if you can envision this across district, we're going from East End, Midtown to our West End. Kind of just stretch it out geographically. And this is also something that we talked about last fall during the workshop. So we had an original 3-year plan because we saw this phenomenon happening at Irving, like in the Thanksgiving pictures, kind of the visual on that. And we thought of it like we then projected out. So this is kind of waving over the across the years. So the year that we had here, 23, 24, we've got 2 classrooms at Man and 1 at Jefferson. Our original thought was to have 2 at Man, 2 at Jefferson, 1 at Hoover. And then the year after, 2 at Man, 2 at Jefferson, 2 at Hoover. So start to spread that out. The only challenge with that was Jefferson kind of sits very close in geographic location to Man. And in terms of actually expanding in Jefferson, Wilson is a more central located school. It's accessible and it has room. Again, we're looking for longevity here. So kind of our updated plan here is, so we can see this year again, and then we can see next year. So we're going to start a classroom at Wilson for next year. Man will maintain its 2. Hoover will have the 1 classroom built at it, and then Irving will drop to 7 classrooms. You just kind of see over time, Irving starts to get lower as we expand to these sites. Again, Irving may always hold a little higher because of our students with medical needs, like our complex medical needs. We tend to place there because the nurse's office is right on site. So if we have a medical emergency in the building, there's a nurse usually right on site to help with that. And our current staffing patterns in terms of filling these positions, so Man, we're fully staffed, we're good to go. Wilson and Irving are seeking a teacher for the opening, and then Hoover, we have an EA opening. Wilson and Irving are currently interviewing for this position. We have an internal district job fair on May 14th, right?
Yes,
May 14th. So we're going to recruit some more candidates, and we're looking at recruiting international candidates too. So we've got some interviews for that lined up. So right now, as we're sitting here, we've got lots of candidates coming in for these openings. And now kind of the logistics of all this fun moving stuff. So what's happening now, and we've actually completed this part, is that the notifications to the families and the IEP meetings for our Jefferson families have been held. So they are aware they're moving to Wilson. Brianne's been awesome about sitting those meetings and really welcoming the families in. She's super excited about this. We are in right in the middle of our EC transition meetings. Those go until about the end of May usually. We're doing our inventory at Jefferson and Irving to prepare to set those new classroom sites up. The equipment's there, just have to correctly disperse it. Later on in May, you'll see that we're going to have open houses at Wilson and Hoover to welcome our new families in. And then we're offering some summer planning and professional development for these new teams. Just to kind of, a lot of things just to get your space set up, kind of get your head wrapped around your place where you are, and to connect with your colleagues. Because kind of as we move into the next year, we really want the continuity in programming that we see at Irving to continue out to these sites. So our plan for going into the next year is that our elementary ID cohorts, our teachers from Irving, from Man, from Hoover and Wilson, will connect every other week via Zoom, just to kind of calibrate on their program. Like resource sharing, ideas for classroom setup, ideas for lesson planning, so that they're a connected collaborative group. Our Irving teachers will be mentoring our new hires. And then during our elementary planning days, one of those hours will be dedicated to that collaboration and plan. So that's kind of our plan as we move out programming. What questions should I have about that?
Ms. Kaiser?
I've got two. One, was this an action item or is this not an actionable item?
This is not an action item. This is informational workshop.
Okay, well, that's what I meant, like, will we be voting on this eventually to move school fairs, or that's not necessary for this?
The school
situation?
placement?
Yeah,
No.
okay,
That's my understanding. Because of the joint federal notification, we are required to do something about Irving. We're in a space where we've been identified that if we don't make moves so that we're able to increase the scores and and decrease the percentages in the building, more and more DPI is going to become involved with telling us how to do that.
okay. It just, every time we move kids in the past, we always had an action about it, so I was just wondering. The other thing was, how is this going to affect siblings of kids and their families? We had a lovely person the other week say, we're at our wits' end with different schools.
Mhm.
So how many families are going to be affected by this, or are we going to address that for families?
So just in as in the past, when we're as a district, the way we've been working, and we're going to be doing some looking at that policy that
Yeah.
came up, that there's been some conversations around. But where we're at right now is that when it's us as a district or us as a special ed team that is making a placement or a movement of a student, that then there is the opportunity for siblings to follow. Because it's us doing the move.
So an IEP team decision and move this.
Correct.
But that is dependent on there being room for the sibling student at the school.
Correct.
Correct.
Mhm.
So it is possible that they could be moved by IEP, but the sibling can't come this year. If there's room next year, maybe they can come. If there's not, maybe the next year, until basically that transition period again, where they go from elementary to intermediate.
Before
My
we have those
concern is we're making it harder on special ed families who already have a lot on their plate.
Right.
And I think we should relook at that policy eventually. I'm just.
Well, that's a separate issue and I don't want to get into
No, I know,
that
I know,
tonight. We are looking at, but I do want to say, like, I've been on the intra-district transfer, like I've worked with that for quite so far in the time that I've worked with it, we haven't had a situation with a request that we didn't have a spot. So if that kind of it's not like something that's like, we're right up to the gills in that space right now.
I was about to ask, could you just elaborate a little bit more on the implications as far as Irving is concerned? Because we're grandfathering in students who are what grades again?
So right now, we're only starting the process to have the 4K students moving out. So any of the kids that are grades up above that are continuing through. So this is our pathway. That is kids who they go to early childhood, done with early, or when they have their evaluation for early childhood of where are they going next, which the majority of them then go out into 4K. Then that's time to go into their either their home school if they don't even need any more special education needs, or in this case, to go to a program that has the more intensive services at the bases that we're creating.
We know Irving is like a well-oiled machine when it comes to this. I mean, for many, many years, they are the exemplar. And you're choosing to use the model of the mentor program with having Irving teachers mentor other teachers at these new satellite sites.
Mhm.
Why are we not considering moving an Irving teacher to this new site? This person that has this.
We are.
Yeah.
We are?
That's part.
So the Hoover spot that's filled is an Irving teacher that's moving to the
Okay.
Irving site.
Okay, good. I'm a proponent of that because I just think that having somebody who really has lived it, going to that building and saying, all right,
Mhm.
well, I've lived this at Irving and here's how this is happening.
Sure.
It's a model that we really want to actually duplicate.
That hire was made with the understanding that we're gonna train you on the Irving way.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay,
And-
all right.
And expect that you will go to Hoover and implement it that way.
Yeah.
Got it.
That was done
Oh.
last year.
So as those programs increase at Wilson and at Hoover, then there's potential that there may be other Irving teachers that would be filling that spot, if it makes sense at the time, or if it's outside people. The one that's not filled just yet for Wilson next year is because that's the program coming from Jefferson that does not have a position.
Mr. Burns?
Are we gonna be looking to? I mean, this is a 3-year plan, but Irving still has 5 classrooms and the stretch is still there, so. Past that, are we looking at doing more spread out?
Yeah, so each at that 4K easy to 4K, that's just a pathway out. And then your 5th graders will move on to 6th grade. So over the course of, it's actually 6 years, it should write itself.
So we don't need to necessarily do
Hmm.
more schools getting. Additional classes, because we do, I mean, because just how you described it with Irving being where. That has the nurses. Office there on site, so that is specifically always going to have. Somebody being populating those classes, but like. Can put some kids over in like. Franklin or Mitchell or one of the other spaces.
Yeah, some of the sites that we looked at were not accessible to the students.
Right.
That was one of the decision points that we made.
Okay.
And again, like looking at the geographic regions of district. And again, by building the classrooms, the 2 classrooms at the site, you open up enough seats for the 4Ks to wave out. And then the other piece we have is families moving in with kids with significant disabilities.
Mhm.
So that would be a pathway to like assign them to the correct school and they're close to their neighborhood too, as opposed to all moving to Irving.
Right. Right, I was just, if we're looking to spread it further, if we can, as we move, I think that would be good, like you said, allowing the kids to stay. In the area that they're more familiar with. And being in their cohort.
This is like the 3rd iteration of this. plan.
Right.
So, initially we were trying to move them out a little earlier and we knew it wasn't gonna be a popular move, so we didn't go that route. We weren't gonna dare do that. Irving does some things I have not seen a lot of schools across this nation be able to pull off. And I'm just, I kind of marvel at how Principal Gosh is able to do that with the sheer percentage of students with disabilities. But it's way over the acceptable number. And so, it's kind of punishing ourselves a bit. We were performing very well academically, but then you're always gonna be punished when you're over that particular threshold and flagged by the federal government to be out of compliance.
And they're doing very well with it, but it's at the point, it's kind of at that critical mass where it's creating a strain on the system.
So my big concern is always staffing. It's always staffing. We personally heard from people at Jefferson. Where we can't keep staff. And my concern when we decentralize, if you will, some of those students, is what if you lose a staff member in the middle of the year, which has happened 3 times this year. To be able to continue, because if there's no teacher, I guarantee the outcomes for that student are not going to be any better.
Sure.
Than if they were in their current situation at Irving. So, do we have any different plans for what happens in that situation?
As far as them moving midstream, like because we can't predict that, but this year in comparison to last year with this plan where it's at and we are already identified what the positions are that we have available. As Ann already mentioned, we're having the in-house job fair just for our school district for positions. And that's, as you said, May 14th. And that's going to be regular and special education. From what I understand, we haven't done that before. We've gone to universities along with everybody else and tried to get people to come, but we're doing this together with the communications department and the human resources to have it be, come and see the great things that we've got. And we're going to have special education teachers there to be able to say, here's the support that you'll receive, and here's my experience here, and come join our team. So that's a new piece, as well as what's already been mentioned about the international teachers. We have a pretty good number of interviews that Ann and I are going to be doing on Thursday. And so what we're doing is kind of creating our own pool and having that be a set pool for now, so that if we do lose some more teachers, we've got venues that we've got people in place. Where last year, very much, at least to me, moving into the position at the time that I did, when we really started looking to fill those vacancies was when the pool was already dry. So we're really trying to do the best that we can to get ahead of the game so that we've got solid opportunities for filling those positions. And some of these positions are ones that we will be interviewing on Thursday for.
You say international teachers, I mean, like a pool during the middle of the year, we'd be trying to get someone like from a different country to come here.
Yeah, so the company that we've been having some conversations with, and now we're at the point of looking at their applicants, is a company that it's Global Exchange. They have certified teachers from all around the globe who are in those positions and teaching in various subjects. We're focusing on special education as well as world languages as the two areas. And so we have seven spots that we
Seven visas secured.
7 visas that we work with this particular company. We're looking at this route because they only charge us right now, I believe it's about $7,500 over for like the visa fee, which if we work with one of the temp services, they're going to charge us about 40% over. So when you look at cost and if you're in a crunch, it's actually a better move. It's proven teachers, fluent in English, it's not a concern. So we're working right now and trying to take advantage of the time we have. We've already identified the positions, interviewing these individuals where they have time to relocate and everything. That's part of the process as well.
The visas are $500, and if we don't get a candidate out of it, we get that money back. And the teachers, yes, are certified teachers in the areas that we're looking at, and they have to have a minimum of 2 years experience before even being able to apply for the positions.
I have one more question, guys. Transportation. So how does this plan change? Because I know with some or all of these students, right, your specific transportation needs. Before everyone was going to Irving, now we're going to have to go to different spots.
Sure.
So is that increasing, decreasing transportation costs? Have we looked at that?
You know, it will probably decrease it because they're going less
Closer.
distance or closer to their home. So if I live in the Walker neighborhood, for me to travel to Hoover is less distance for me to travel to Irving.
Okay. Guys,
I just want to vouch for the international program. I knew somebody who was from Vancouver, taught special ed in Boston schools for many years. So I just wanted to say it is a great idea, and I'm really glad that we actually are open to this. Really cool.
Yeah, my concern was time. Just how long does it take to get somebody from another country to come?
No, I know.
It doesn't happen like that, you know.
Right, absolutely. That wouldn't be our best, that's not going to be our best opportunity should somebody decide to leave mid-year. But that's why what we're trying to do is create a solid pool to begin with. And then the other ways that we are able to reach out and find candidates, that would be more the backups if necessary.
Other questions from the board? No? All right. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that is the end of our last workshop for the evening, so I would look for a motion to adjourn.
To adjourn.
So.
Second.
Seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You're adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.